Hello, my name is Joseph O'Brien. I'll be your moderator for today, and welcome, big welcome to our University of Roehampton London Online webinar. Welcome to Roehampton Online. I couldn't mean that enough. Big warm welcome from all of us, rubbing my hands together because meaningful work is starting now. You've come on a long journey, picking what course is right for you, speaking to an enrollment advisor. Hopefully you've watched some preparation material, visited our Centre for Student Success. We'll be discussing that later. And probably by this time Saturday, let's say, I think you'll be sitting down, reading your journal articles, working out how to cite and reference, and then getting back on the horse again. It might be a while since you've studied. You might have been in a very different setting like a campus. You're now online. The future is here, and we're here to help you navigate that and discuss that with you. We've got a wonderful panel. We're going to go through a lot of content relevant to new students. One of our guests, Ms. Stephanie Bernier, is not with us at the moment. Hopefully she will join us in the next few minutes. She's our student guest on the psychology program. We'll wait for her to come in and give her a warm welcome when she does. But let's go around the room. Well, my name is Joseph O'Brien. I'll be the moderator for today. First panelist we have here is Dr. Dimitrios Vlachopoulos. Hello, Dimitrios. How are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me. A big, huge welcome to all our students here. And I wish a successful and productive first module to everybody.
Thank you very much, Dimitrios. Can you just tell us a bit about what you do for us and what your specialist subject is, what you teach at Roehampton?
Yeah, I have two roles with Roehampton and Laureate. First of all, I'm Executive Director of Student Success. So I work with the different departments to make sure that our students have a pleasant and easy learning journey. And then I teach in the Masters in Education Sciences. And most of these students who study Education Sciences will find me in their first module class that starts now. So I look forward to interacting with them.
Nice, and there are probably some students from those courses on the call at the moment, as well as students from all of our various programs have been invited today. And we have the lovely Anupama Menon from Student Support. Hi, Anu, how are you? Anu's still getting ready, preparing for her guest, so we'll move on. Anu's a member of our student support team here on the phone and ready to answer your queries, and Stephanie will be joining you later as well. So Dimitrios, I just wanted us to start talking a bit about Roehampton, about the history. Our students would have learned a bit from their enrollment advisors and learned a bit from their research, but I really want them to understand the university they're joining. So we're going to welcome them to Roehampton. Tell us a bit, Dimitrios, about the history of Roehampton as an institution and the status that it has now.
Sure. The University of Roehampton is celebrating 175 years as an institution, and I'm very happy and proud to say that it has been recently ranked as the best modern university in London, which is amazing for being a part of this team. This great news confirms that the university has the status of a heavyweight research active institution, which places great emphasis on students' employment skills and is focused on providing the highest quality of teaching. In addition, it is important to say that all these research scholars also teach. So our students will find these very well prepared experts in their fields in their classroom, and they will be able to exchange experience, understand from their research projects better the content of the course, and develop the necessary academic skills of each program.
Well, thank you very much. Now, you touched upon it there, really. There's a term that I learned last year, Dimitrios, called pracademic, which is like a practitioner academic, who was able to teach in the classroom and teach the theory, but also had hands-on experience within the business world or within an organization. As we look at our faculty now and the faculty perspective, would you say that that reflects our faculty members at University of Roehampton, London Online as well? And what kind of backgrounds do your colleagues have?
Absolutely. First of all, I would like to say that we are an intercultural, multicultural and international team. The Roehampton Online faculty is composed of men and women who are internationally mentioned. We are not only academics of our programs. The faculty members are passionate and curious individuals who continue their own research while teaching at the University of Roehampton. So they come from all over the world, bringing them a diverse wealth of knowledge and experience. So I really recommend our students to take advantage of these experiences and knowledge and research activity in order to be able to develop the necessary competencies.
And I think
Um,
that's important, Demetrios, because when you're looking at a program, you kind of want to make sure that you're learning off people that have had some practical experience in business as well. What do you know about some of the characters that we can see here on the screen?
of course, we can see some faculty members from the management school. We can see also our Vice President of Academic Affairs, Professor Claire Pickles. So you see we have people from the UK, from the States,
Hmm.
from other European countries, from the Middle East, from Asia. So it's an amazing experience that only the online classroom can achieve to bring faculty members from all over the world in the same class, in the same program.
That's perfect. And we're very lucky to have a couple of these figures here. The man in the blue shirt is Dr. Joaquin Angeles. He's a professional expert in leadership, and he works as a consultant for the US Navy, teaching them about leadership. So, extremely, high up work that he's doing as well. Natalia Stukalo, she's one of our final research project managers. I believe she's editing some big economic journal as well. So it's a really exciting people to learn off as well. And the way we learn is through this thing called the collaborative learning model. What is the collaborative learning model, Demetrios, and how does it kind of differ from what we know about maybe, traditional campus-based learning that we might have done in our undergraduate degrees?
You mentioned. I would like to start with the campus, well, because you mentioned the
Hmm.
campus. So it is important for all our students to understand that in terms of outcomes, there is no difference between learning online with the University of Roehampton and studying on campus, because the online programs are developed and delivered to the same high standards as the degrees taught on campus. So
Yes.
having said that, during each module, the students will benefit from our emphasis on collaborative learning. This means that they will take part in different shared activities, which are online discussions that take place in every program, and they will be able to develop relationship with their fellow students and faculty members, to explore materials and ideas more critically, to challenge themselves and their classmates, to discover and debate issues and themes, and generally to learn more from each other's experience. As we said, they need to take advantage of this international classroom experience and international faculty presence to learn from each other's experience. So together with this collaborative model, they will have some individual activities as well. So there is balance between collaboration and individual studies with the submission of projects, case studies analysis, depending on the program that each student is enrolled in.
I want to continue the discussion with you at the moment, Demetrius. How do our programs reflect, contemporary issues, and how do we make sure that our students are studying stuff that's actually relevant today?
Sure. The topics we are discussing in the different modules are current, directly related to contemporary business-related situations. The faculty members that lead the discussions on these topics help the students develop critical practice and reflective skills. They bring their own experience, and these discussions become such an enriching activity. And
Mm.
this enriching activity also for the faculty members, us, because we have the amazing opportunity to lead a group of individuals with interesting experience, professional
Mm.
experience in their field, in education, in management, in health. It's not only enriching for the students, but it's also for us, the faculty members, and it's because we understand how different topics and situations are managed in different parts of the world. So we are talking about current important issues directly related to the research hot topics of these recent years.
Okay, now we're going to try again because this, live television being what it is. Stephanie, I think you've come through on the phone. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here, Stephanie.
Absolutely.
Big,
Thank
big
you very
welcome
much.
to you. Oh, you're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Can you just tell us a bit about your initial experience? Why did you choose Roehampton, and what did you find how did you find online learning as an experience compared to how you might have learned before?
Well, actually, it all started out that quite a few of us at the same institution were thinking about doing a master's program, and most of us had decided that online learning was the way to go, simply because it's an international environment where we're working. Some of us don't know where we're going to be in the next couple of years. So with the University of Roehampton, you know, it being online, you can pick up and continue to study wherever you are. So that was a real plus for myself and the others at the school that I teach in. So we all decided to jump in and take the leap.
Nice.
When I first started, though,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, I was just going to say when I first started, though, the first module, it did take some time to get used to the Blackboard platform
Yes.
and to get used to the shared activities as well. So the first module is learning not only about the subject content, obviously, but just navigating yourself around the system and getting used to online learning itself.
And that's it, and that's part of why we're having this webinar today, Stephanie, so you can kind of make the students feel a bit easier about jumping in at the deep end and tackling all of this, as I move to a slide called How the Class Works. So this will be very familiar to you, Stephanie. You've got your weeks laid out in units. I'd like to go back to Dimitrios here for how the class works. Can you just tell us a bit, Dimitrios, about the logic of this and what students can expect in terms of how work is broken down and why it's broken down like this?
Of course, and I have to say though that I'm very happy that Stephanie is here, because we were in the same module recently, so she was my student, and I'm very happy that she joined the webinar. So as far as our structure is concerned, we follow a 10-week module structure, which is split into 5 2-week units. Each unit in the module contains some type of assessment activity. This distributed nature of the assessment pattern enables the student to get points, to get credits during each unit, and to benefit from the ongoing feedback that the faculty member is sending to the students after each assessed activity. This is critical for the learning journey of master students, also for content-related understandings, but also to develop more academic skills like academic writing and referencing, citing, and so on. More analytically, in units 1, 2, and 4, the assessed activity is an online discussion, which is called shared activity. These 3 shared activities account for the 20% of the overall grade in the module. It is important to mention that we are talking about asynchronous discussions, so the students will decide how to organize their study and their participation, of course, within the course deadlines. The rest, 80%, comes from the projects that the students need to submit by the end of Unit 3 and the end of Unit 5. So successful performance in a module is considered if the student manages to obtain at least 50% overall. So if they get 50% or more, then it's a pass grade, and then we have from 60 to 70 merit grade, and from 70 until 100 the distinction grade.
Okay, lovely. And so for you, Stephanie, how is it important is it that you kind of make sure you make a good effort with your shared activities so that you can kind of bank, you know, some of your percentage over for when you have to do the bigger pieces of work? I mean, how do you deal with this?
Yeah, sure. I think that it's important to note that although the shared activities for Unit 1 and 2 are only valued at 5%, they're invaluable in the completion of those activities. What I mean by that is, especially in the first module, you're getting used to academic writing, referencing, and having an academic discussion where you're actually referencing your work. And the work that you do in those 2 units does basically build towards the projects that you have in the learning module. So it's very important that your knowledge and your theory knowledge and your connections with your classmates and having those discussions is very concrete and valuable. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
No, I completely agree. And let's have a little look inside the class next as we go to Annie and kind of Unravel Blackboard. Now, we don't want to kind of blind you with too much information. We do have a lot of preparation webinars and things that you can go and do, and there's some room for you to also, I believe, Anu, to explore within the classroom as well. But Anu, I'd like you to run a 5 to 10 minute presentation where you show students what they're going to have to do this week. Okay, so please can you change the presentation over, Michael, as Anu can just guide us through that. Thank you very much. Anu, over to you.
Hi, my name is Anupama and I'm a student support specialist. So I'm here to sort of just help you guide through the classroom. I know you've had a lot of information already, so I'm not going to, give you so much information that is going to confuse you at the end. But you get into your classroom via the SpireNet portal. I'm not going to spend too long here because I assume all of you have managed to log into the portal and find your way through that. So you should already be able to go into your classroom. And if you haven't, please go in so you know what it feels like. So click on Go to Class. And I have, in fact, been enrolled as John Thompson. Dimitrios, if you wonder, who John Thompson is and why you don't see him from tomorrow, he's a Rogue student that has been enrolled just for this webinar. So please don't be too concerned if you don't find him tomorrow. Right. So as you can see, every module going forward, this is the kind of view you're going to be getting. Always review the syllabus. Very important because you get a feel for what your module is going to look like. And I always advise students, especially on the first module, go unit-wise. Go through Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4, Unit 5. Don't try and get into all the units at one, not immediately, not on the first module. We have a lot of resources here. I'm not going to take too much time into that because you have, the time to sort of look into the classroom later. I want to cover the most important elements because I've been just reminded by Joe that we take in only a maximum of 5 minutes, and anything I say beyond 5 minutes is not going to be retained. And I do have a tendency to talk a lot, so let's keep that short. Very important thing is when you go into class, go into My Groups and click on that because that's where you're going to be primarily working, right? Go to your group discussion board, and this is where you would post your introduction. So a little bit about yourself. I can see that some of you have already gone ahead and done that. That's wonderful. Then this is where the shared activities or the collaborative activities that we were talking about. So first thing to do is go to the Unit 1 shared activity and get ready to make your initial post. And we do say make an initial post to the shared activity by day 7, which would be next Wednesday. But my personal advice is not to keep it until day 7, because then you might find yourself not getting too many responses. So ideally, have that, make that posting by day 5, if you can. That's the recommendation, right? Then if you go back to the group discussion board, the first 2 weeks of the module is, in fact, you wouldn't see your faculty specialized in the module. In the first module, you'll have a lot of interaction with a tutor, with the academic tutor who's sort of helping you find your way through the module. And that's only for the first module and the first 2 weeks. So you can contact your tutor from here. And you can contact the faculty member from here. If you send a message through this link, please remember that this message is open to everybody in the classroom and it's not a private message. If you'd like to send a private message to your instructor, then you need to go to the messages box, go to inbox, and create message. All right, that's the way you would compose a direct message or a private message to your instructor. Of course, click to and the instructor. When you then, at the end of, when you need to make Turnitin submissions, we do have a facility, the draft Turnitin, where you can actually use that as a practice link. Then make your actual submission via the assignment submissions. Now, I know that Dimitrios, and I think we're going to cover academic integrity a bit more, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But remember, when you submit something via the draft Turnitin, this is not going to be assessed by your instructor. It's really only for practice. You need to make your submissions via the assignment submissions, the Turnitin. You can review your grades via My Grades. So I think I've pretty much covered what the most important elements in the classroom. Oh yes, and if you want the announcements, you can also subscribe to the announcements, in which case all these announcements would come into your email. And I think it's quite handy if you're not in the habit of checking into the classroom every day, then it might be handy to actually subscribe so you don't miss anything. Right. I think I've pretty much.
And if you allow me to add just 2 comments on this. First of all, the announcements forum is very important because the instructor will send you helpful tips and instructions on the assessments, will announce the synchronous sessions, the online sessions that he or she will conduct during the module, information when the feedback and grades are released. So it's very important to subscribe and to receive also the announcements via email. And also following what Stephanie said before, during the first 2 weeks, we are really interested in parallel with the contents to help you as much as we can with the navigation and understanding the expectations, what it means to be a successful master student at Roehampton. So the academic skill tutor is going to help you improve your academic writing, understand what it needs to be successful in submitting an assignment, help you with referencing and citing. So these 2 first weeks, you will work with the academic skills tutors, and then from Unit 2 until the end of the module, the instructor will help you with the contents and the rest of the activities. So it's a pretty smooth process, interesting, smooth integration to the online world. And if you have any questions, the faculty member and the skills tutors are there to respond to any concerns or need for additional feedback you may have.
Lovely. Now you mentioned there as well, Dimitros, which I think is worth mentioning again, synchronous sessions. Dimitros, what are synchronous sessions and what should students be looking out for?
The synchronous sessions are meetings, virtual meetings that the instructor is inviting every week, at least every unit, which is once every 2 weeks. This is the minimum, but most of the instructors see that the students are interested in more interaction, so they conduct more than one per unit, but at least once per unit, the instructor invites the whole classroom to discuss about the contents of the unit and the assessment activity. So the students are welcome to join this synchronous meeting, but they are not obliged to be there. We recognize the flexibility that the online study should provide. So we invite everybody to join, and those who are unable to join, they have the opportunity to watch this online session in a recording. So it is a very interesting tool, and it's going to help you understand the contents of each unit as well as the assessment activities.
Lovely. So yes, that's the synchronous session that's available for you as well. I mean, I believe the synchronous sessions are mainly for the first module. Is that correct?
No, they will take part throughout their studies. So it is an addition that we did because we saw that we implemented it first in the first module and it had great success. And now it is implemented in the rest of the modules.
There you go. So you learn something new every day. We thought it was only for the first module, but now we've rolled it out for all the modules for the students. So that's an opportunity to go face-to-face with your instructor or to watch the video of the class discussion, kind of get involved a bit more. You know, this is not distance learning, guys. You can actually have quite an opportunity to integrate and to talk to your other students. There's fantastic opportunities to start WhatsApp groups in your personal bios and things that you're printing, that you're sending to each other, to include your LinkedIn details and your contacts, and start networking now. It's very, very important. When it comes to shared activities, I'd like to speak to you a bit about this, Stephanie. What are the students like who you've been discussing all these topics with in your class? Where do they come from, and how are they kind of informing you and your journey through the university?
Well, I think it's been very interesting because you do get different viewpoints. The current class that I'm in at the moment, there are many students, and they're from all around the world. Many of them from UAE as well, but just everywhere. And you should get to hear the different viewpoints as well as possibly the resources. You might have another student that posts something with another slant, for example, or another theory that you haven't read about. So with the posting of their 500 words, it gives you another view of things, and then another resource yet to read to broaden your knowledge on a certain particular topic or subject, which is invaluable. But I'd also like to just mention again about the synchronous sessions from a student's perspective, with the equivalence theory, basically. It really does help as a student to have the synchronous sessions, and I think those are absolutely invaluable. It just brings a human component back into the studies, which I think a lot of online courses are missing, and that's probably why it's been brought back in, I'm assuming, because it really has helped myself and a few of the others just make that extra connection so that we improve our understanding and further our knowledge.
That's exactly what we're hoping to achieve as well. I mean, Dimitrios, from an instructor perspective, what are you looking for from shared activity posts from your students?
So the shared activity is the most adequate place to check and to investigate whether the students have understood the contents of the module and their critical reflection skills. So the students are not just exchanging messages, but the faculty member is monitoring the discussion and participates actively in these discussions, giving additional feedback, posing thought-provoking questions, presenting some alternative perspectives. So the most important part I would like to underline for the shared activity is that the student need to be active different days during the learning week. So it's I would recommend at least 3 to 4 days to check the discussion board, even if they don't plan to post every day, but to follow up with the messages, to see what the peers are writing, to take some ideas, to be actively monitoring the discussion, because otherwise they will log in and they will find 50 messages and it will be more difficult to digest and manage. If you go inside the shared activity 3 times a week and you see and you read the messages, you get more ideas, more resources to be able to construct and publish your own posts.
Exactly. And for you, Stephanie, is there a kind of a tactic or a way that you approach your shared activities, a kind of formula that you have?
Yes, well, actually, you mentioned before to make connections with other students. So not only are we making connections with other students online to the shared activities, but myself and a few others created a Facebook group, for example. So we brainstorm ideas and share resources that way as well before we even write. So sometimes you're stuck on something, you know that there's something out there for a particular aspect that you want to attack and you want to talk about, but you just can't find it, can't seem to see it after searching, but somebody else will. And then you'll share what you have. And that just broadens the knowledge and really gets the discussion going. It really does help. It really does help.
Now, that's 20% of your grade, but the bigger, larger piece of work is the Unit 3 and Unit 5, project respectively. Let's just call it the final module project. How do you go about your final module project? And can you give us an example of maybe a recent one you've done and how you've approached that?
Well, they're usually broken up in sections. So rather than becoming overwhelmed with the whole project, I usually start with sections and attack, each section as it comes along, getting my resources together, formulating my ideas. And a lot of the work that can be drawn into those projects are coming from your previous units in that particular module. So you're not just starting something just from scratch during that project. It's previous learning in the module that helps you to formulate your ideas and write your projects and have those resources ready. Of course, you're going to add on to that and improve your knowledge as you go along, but it really does help to focus on those, focus on the units that aren't worth as much, the first 2 shared activities. And a lot of students might not think, oh, well, they're not really worth very much, so I'm really not going to put that much effort. But if you put the effort in then, it'll make your projects much more worthwhile, because you'll have the resources ready to go. You'll have the ideas already formulated in your mind as to what you're going to write about.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you how much your shared activities informed your final module project. I mean, I can think you touched upon it there, really. Do you find that one kind of, it's a
Yes.
natural organic progression from one to the other?
I believe it is. And even after you've written your responses, just reading responses from other students and catching an idea that they might have posted, or a resource that they might have posted that leads you to research just that little bit more, can sometimes add to your knowledge and add to your final grade, basically, because that'll improve what you're writing about.
Exactly. Now, the difference between undergraduate level and postgraduate level, or undergrad and postgraduate programs, is one word, and the word is research. Postgraduate programs are research-led. We all have to learn how to research, and these are the 4 kind of key skills that, Stephanie, you've learned how to develop. And Dimitros, can you just run through how important these key skills are and how students can look to develop these skills at the University of Roehampton?
The first thing that I wanted to comment here is that all our students have a very interesting experience as professional practitioners, this is something very important. But here, we are writing at a master's level, so we need to be able to challenge, to confirm all our arguments with the help of the corresponding resources, saying like articles, journals, books, governmental reports. So everything that we say here, even in the discussion board, which seems like a discussion, must be justified and supported by the corresponding literature. So the students need to manage an increased amount of readings and resources. They need to critically reflect on these resources. If simply agreeing or disagreeing is not enough at the master's level, they need to explain why and to provide some examples for their agreement or disagreement. So they need to understand some academic writing norms, what is expected from them in terms of writing, to avoid some words that we use normally when we speak, and to be able to reference correctly according to Harvard style or APA, depending on the program that they are following. So there are some rules that they need to follow. But the academic skills tutors during the first 2 weeks will dedicate a lot of time and activities and synchronous sessions as well to help them with these academic skills.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it takes a while to get in the swing of referencing and citing everything. It's an important part of your learning journey, and there are lots of resources available for you. For those of you that have come through our preparation program and have looked at some of the webinars there, we have a whole webinar dedicated to good academic practices and skills. As we touched upon earlier, the Writing Centre are available for you. These tutors are not specific to your subject, so they're not going to tell you about public health or education or business, but what they will tell you about and help you with is how to develop and structure an academic essay with good arguments, good link words, and proper citing and referencing. So that's a service that you can go and find out on the Centre for Student Success. So let's just have a little recap here of what we've done. We've looked at the study cycle. So you'd read, you take notes, you start planning, and then, as Stephanie said earlier, you start participating early and often. That's what Anu also recommended, early and often in bite-sized chunks. Get your stuff out on the discussion board so people write back to you. Don't be the last person to post on. Write and polish your assignment. This comes, over time. You'll get better at this, and there's support and help for you as well. Your shared activities will be involving reading and taking notes, drafting and submitting your initial discussion post, reading and responding to your colleagues' posts. This is the 20% that we were speaking to about earlier. Our individual assignments, we've got to understand the assignment, plan, draft, revise, and submit those assignments, as well as completing extra activities. Now a lot of you are going to have draft turn-it-in links in the class. Is that right, Anu? We have draft turn-it-in links. And how are we meant to be using those draft turn-it-in links? Just tell us a bit about that.
So the draft Turnitin link is really for practice, and you can keep using this draft Turnitin link. So you need. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So Unit 3 project you submit, and if you think that the Turnitin result is very high, you change, and you could again use the draft Turnitin and see if the work has become better. So really use it to your it's there for you to use it as a practice session, and that's why reiterated that this is a practice link and it's not going to be used by the instructor for assessment.
Perfect. We have a slide that will guide you through that process a bit later on. And the last thing that we're talking about, you build up to your Unit 3 and Unit 5 project respectively. It's 80% of your final grade. It's a big project. If you're doing a leadership module, for example, you might have to examine leadership in your company and your organization. You might have to put a 5,000-word paper together about that leadership. You'll be having discussions in your shared activities, for example, where you're discussing with other people in your class about how they view leadership or how leadership works at their organizations or in their different countries. That's going to inform your opinion as you go and gather that 20%. You're then taking that opinion and what you've read, and then you're going to do a bigger and longer piece of work, and you're going to apply that to your organization. Now, it's very important for those of you that are working in organizations and looking for career progression within those organizations that you look to solve work-based problems. In certain areas, this might not be as relevant as others, but certainly for those of you that are on business degrees, this is very important. Education degrees as well. You can look at your educational institutions that you're working for and try to look at problems that you can solve theoretically. Now, Stephanie, do you get an opportunity in your line of work to look at some of the problems that are addressed in class and apply them to your experience and your organization and your career?
Yes, absolutely. I'm the director of digital learning at the school that I teach in and work in. And the modules have really helped me formulate ideas and ways of tackling different issues which have occurred in my workplace. For example, the last module with Demetrios, we had to analyze a problem, a performance gap, and come up with a whole plan basically to close that performance gap. And it was very crucial to me that I learned the skills to do that in the module, because in my context it was a very real problem, and after going through the module and writing the last project, I was certainly able to have a very secure handle on how I was going to tackle the issue in my context.
Well, yes, and sometimes we have to be creative. Some people might not currently be working or whatever and have to think of previous companies or other situations or
Sure.
kind of aspiring situations of, oh, I want to work in IT, so I'm going to look at IT companies or so on and so forth. But try to be practical in terms of what you address and talk about, and try to tie it into your experience. You'll really find that enriching. As we move to this part and we talk about Turnitin, I'd like to go back to Demetrios on this one. Now, Anu mentioned it earlier. You have to put your work through this piece of software called Turnitin. And Turnitin is very important because it kind of reads what is out there on the internet and kind of assesses the work that our students are taking and whether they're referencing and citing it properly. How would you put this tool into context, Demetrios?
Yeah, it is a very useful tool for both students and faculty members. So how it works, we are looking to avoid plagiarism or poor academic quality work. So it is our recommendation that the students, before the final submission that goes to the faculty member for assessment, they try the draft Turnitin thread and they submit their final draft there. The Turnitin identifies an original content. Sometimes the percentage you will see, it can be really high, but this doesn't mean automatically that we are talking about the plagiarism. For example, the example that you see on your screen, it is highlighted, but as you can see after this first paragraph, we have the right citation, right in-text citation that justifies the above mentioned quotation. So there is absolutely no problem with this. We understand that you in the first module we are not able to interpret and understand all the academic integrity and plagiarism issues. So my recommendation is that if you submit your draft and you see a high percentage in similarity, don't get panicked, but just contact your faculty member and ask for advice and say, I saw that I have 30% similarity. but I tried my best to reference every source that I have consulted. What's going on? So the faculty member will explain to you that there is no problem at all because everything is properly cited and referenced, or they will recommend some changes in your work. It is very important to establish a very close collaboration with your faculty member, especially in the first project that you will submit by the end of Unit 3, to make sure that you avoid any academic integrity issues. The faculty member will conduct synchronous sessions on Turnitin and how to avoid plagiarism, but it's still important, if you have any additional doubts, to contact the faculty for more feedback.
That's very, very good advice. And now this is, happens to be a piece of work that I did in my MBA program. Turnitin isn't perfect either. You can see at the top, it's highlighted a quote that I've used. If you are a quote junkie like me, who just loves to just put in quotes all the time and then write off the quotes and use a technique called quote sandwiching, then you're going to find you're going to have a higher Turnitin percentage because you're using more quotations as opposed to paraphrasing. In the top, you see that it's highlighted as Dimitrios said. So that makes Dimitrios go, or the instructor, look at that work and say, okay, this has been taken from someone else. Is it correctly taken? And you can see with the quotes and everything it is. Now, if you look down into the document, you can see there's another quote there, but it hasn't been highlighted. Right? So when the instructor reads that, he's going to see that and notice there's another quote, but it's probably from a book and the book hasn't been published on the internet or whatever, and so the software has not picked it up. But it's still cited and referenced correctly, so the instructor still understands that it's a quote and has been addressed correctly. And just like Dimitrios said, this is something you can take on with your instructor and discuss that so you can understand how to put your best foot forward and find a style of writing that suits you as well. Stephanie, how do you find all the citing and referencing? Was it something that was a bit of a chore for you, or was it natural?
Yes, it was a real challenge. It was a real challenge, to be totally honest with you, because you spend so much time looking through the Roehampton guide and you think you might be doing everything right, and then there's something that you're not quite sure of, and then the time is running short, etc. And you think you've done your best and you post it, and then suddenly you found some minor issues or whatever. But it does get better. So your first couple of units, okay, you might make some mistakes, but you'll learn quickly, and do use the Center for Student Success because they will certainly point it out and help you. But I would say do get out the Roehampton Harvard guide because it is like the code book of referencing that you really need to adhere to.
Yeah. Exactly, and thank you very much for that lovely segue into the Center for Student Success, Stephanie. Tell us a bit about the Center for Student Success from your perspective as a student, Stephanie. What can you go there and kind of find out?
I've only actually used the Center for Student Success in the first module, and basically that is what they've helped me with, is just the referencing and pointing out certain mistakes that I was making. And they do get back to you. You make your appointment with them, and they give you very good feedback. It's very, very, very useful.
And that's the writing center that you were discussing. And Anu, can you just tell us about all the other delights that we can find on the Center for Student Success? And Stephanie can go and explore those as well.
That's true. Possibly Stephanie hasn't had the need to explore the Center for Student Success. She's possibly been progressing very well. And
everyone
that's why.
wants to be successful.
Absolutely. So the Center for Student Success is really where you can find all the policies and procedures. And including, I would say that's something that you need to sort of have as a link in when you start your studies, have that as a very important tool and link, because you can also, type in frequently. We have a frequently asked questions section. So for instance, you might have questions like, can I submit my, can I have, request for a late submission? What do I do? So all those kind of questions, if you type in, you're going to get a response. So Center for Student Success is something I would say, review it carefully because it really entails all the policies and procedures as far as the University of Roehampton goes, including how to contact the student support, technical support, and the financial office.
Okay, thank you very much. Because support being the last thing you think about when you're choosing a program, and the first thing you think about now that you're doing a program. So it is very important that you learn who your support is beyond your family and your network of friends, and that you do, you know, lean on us, whether it's the support tools that you're using automated on the Center for Student Success, or whether it's actually speaking to someone like Anu as well, and one of our student support managers. Now let's get to our Q&A session. Now, we have been racing through the content today because it's an hour and we've got so much content. So apologies for carrying on at such a brisk pace. But to answer one of your questions, will this recording be made available so that you can pause and take stock of all the information you're getting? Then yes, the recording will be sent to all of you guys so you can kind of pause and stop. Now, we've covered a lot of things kind of on a high level overview, haven't we? But Anu, I'd like to kind of, before we move on to questions, go through this slide with you. It's our preparation planner. I want our students to understand that they can have a deeper dive into some of these questions as well. Now, Annie, can you see the preparation planner in front of you?
Yes.
Can you just tell students what the kind of expectations are in terms of what they're meant to acclimatize themselves with in the onboarding process?
Absolutely. So the first thing to do, of course, I mean, is now in terms of there is a deadline for the post in the shared activity forum, which is next Wednesday. And please remember, when we talk about weeks, our weeks starts on a Thursday and ends on a Wednesday. So the most important thing to do right now, go into class right now, post your introduction, sign on the academic integrity declaration, and you know, have a look around. Like I said, don't wait for too long to go into that shared activity forum, because you might find yourself getting extremely overwhelmed with all the responses and the activity that's happening. So when you begin the module, like I said, I recommended don't wait too long to post something into the shared activities, but you definitely need to make a posting in the forum by Wednesday before midnight your time zone. All right. And as you can see, there is a complete Unit 1 quiz. You have to complete an assignment, right? And you also need to post 2 responses. So we haven't added that, but that's important. So by day 14, you need to have made also 2 responses to your classmates on the discussion board.
Thank you very much, Anu, for going through that preparation planner. What I'd also like to say to our students is there's a lot of webinars that they've been invited to, and they're there on the Center for Student Success as well in the new students section. We're gonna discuss things like academic skills in longer depth in those webinars. You get like something like videos discussing different elements and how to set up your computer, what hardware and what software you need, and all that kind of stuff. So that we do have quite a lot of material, and it's up to you guys, but you really should go on there and check it out. It's going to make your life a lot easier if you view those resources as well. So let's take a couple of questions from the floor. We've had quite a few of them actually, and we haven't looked at them before, so let's have a little look. How much or little match overview percentage is acceptable using the Turnitin tool? I always like this question because we get it every time. Turnitin is not a game where you're beating a score. Dimitrios, how would you handle that question? How much or little match overview percentage is acceptable using the Turnitin tool?
The answer is that there is no concrete percentage acceptable or not. We can have 8% similarity and have a plagiarism case, and we can have 20% similarity with absolutely no problem with academic integrity. What I said before, it's important to understand and interpret the Turnitin report. At the beginning, we establish close communication with the faculty member to understand if there is something wrong. And then I'm sure that you will be in a position after the second, third module to, without the need of the faculty support, to understand what it means that this piece of work is properly cited, properly referenced, and all the academic writing mechanics. But don't focus on the similarity percentage. Focus on the originality of the content and the proper citing inside in the text.
Okay, perfect. Another question, where can we find tools to assist us in the writing, credibility, or citing and referencing? That would be the Centre for Student Success. That's where Anu just mentioned. And if you want extra help, you book an appointment with the Writing Centre tutors. Anu, what if I miss the assignment deadline? What happens? Is there such a thing as an extension or a grace period, etc.? Not that I'm anticipating that. That'll happen. It will happen occasionally in the 2 years on your course that you might miss a deadline. Don't beat yourself up over it. But what do we do, Anu?
Correct. It might happen, though we really hope it doesn't. Now, if you're unable to make a unit, a final project submission deadline by by a Wednesday, you could potentially take up to a week more, and you don't need to request any, you don't have an extension request for that. You can submit until a week later. The only thing being that your grade would be capped at 50. So that's still a pass grade, but your work might be deemed worthy of more than 50, but it would be capped at a grade of 50, which is a pass grade. And for taking a week extra, you don't need to have any sort of additional request. But if you're going to need more than that, and you want, you want to request that grade not be capped, then there needs to be mitigating circumstances, and that is something that I think student will need to contact student support, and we can get that into detail. I don't want to get into that when they're just beginning their first module, but we do have policies for all that.
Exactly. If you trap your hand under something and you can't type, then you write in, you say I can't type, and that's a mitigating circumstance, so
Absolutely.
to speak. Yeah. So what if I miss the assignment deadline? So we're done with that one. Do tutors or faculty contact students by the phone, or can students contact them by the phone if they need help with anything within this module? Very easy. We don't do the phone. What we do is, as Demetra says, is they are synchronous sessions that the instructors offer, giving the class an opportunity to meet them online together, do the recordings, and then you have asynchronous email communication with your faculty member through the contact faculty button. It's very much like office relationships and remote virtual teams. We have people in different offices that I need to speak to in part of my business, and I have to reach them, book an appointment. It works very similar to that. For the university standard, writing is only British English accepted, or will American English be accepted for assignments? UK University, British English, please. Organizations with an S, specialization with an S, behavior with a U. Thank you very much. Can you explain once again how to create a group and share activities, please? I don't quite follow. Now, with the shared activities, Anu, can you just tell us a bit about how they're set up, and that they're set up in the classroom?
Yes, so the instructor actually...
We lost the audio again?
Right, sorry. So the instructor actually assigns all the students into study groups. So in terms of what they're expected to post in a shared activity, that is also described in the unit so if you go into unit 1, they'd be able to see what they need to post on the shared activity or on the discussion board. And the study groups have also been created in advance by the instructor, and you'd be able to see the names of your colleagues.
Perfect. We have a question: who initiates the shared activity topic conversation? It's not a person in your class. It's part of the structure of the program and the modules that you have.
Absolutely.
Every unit, you have these assignments, and your instructor will put those assignments into your classroom.
Yeah.
And then you all go out and you do your first assignment. You present it to your instructor for the feedback, and also to the class, and then we read each other's assignments and we carry on responding to them. It's like it's posts. It's a discussion thread, but instead of just chatting to each other, each post is an academically informed piece of writing. Okay, it's not just, oh, that's interesting about leadership. My boss is I think my boss is a bit like that. No, it's I understand the way that leadership works in your country. In my country, it works differently according to this theorist. This is the reason why. If we look at this company, we can see this example, and that's how to critically think around the subject. So thank you very much for that. I heard the moderator speak about WhatsApp groups. How can I join one or form a WhatsApp group? Stephanie, have you had the pleasure of starting a WhatsApp group yet, or have you joined any of these kind of groups with your students? Yeah.
I've joined, or we created a Facebook group. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, we created a Facebook group, and it's been very successful, where we can discuss and share resources, etc. And that's been phenomenal. I know that other students have created WhatsApp groups, and that's worked for some students, but for me, I'm quite a social media computer person, so I prefer my medium is Facebook.
Depends on the big old Chinese firewall as well. You know, in certain countries there's going to be firewall to Facebook and firewall to Google services and certain things. So it just depends on what we're using at the time. But WhatsApp Messenger groups, Facebook and WhatsApp Facebook Messenger groups are a fantastic way to kind of problem solve, troubleshoot on the fly. And also I found with the groups that I joined with my MBA, there's quite a lot of support and friendliness going on in these groups. Actually.
Absolutely.
And I found that to be probably the biggest benefit, that I wasn't alone.
Absolutely, and I think you know, one of the modules, the first module in the MEd, they talk a lot about critical friends, and I've certainly made quite a few of them going through the modules now in Module 5. I have quite a few colleagues that I can really count on, and they can count on me to critically analyze our work and give suggestions and give honest feedback.
Well, that's absolutely what it's all about. And Anu, where can we find our student support team?
Hi. So we are actually based in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and you can always reach us via telephone during our office hours. You can contact us via, like I said, the Center of Student Success, a form, where you can also tell us what you'd like to discuss, or by email, and then you would be connected to one of us on the team.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you for everyone. It was a rocky start, but we got there in the end, exactly like you all will do on your programs. You know, I wish you good luck, but if you've been paying attention in this webinar and you're going through all the steps and you're looking at the Center for Student Success, then you won't need any luck at all. And I will ask Stephanie, our guest of honor today, for one last question I have for you. Stephanie, if you could go back to the beginning of your program, to where all these guys are now, just about to dive in and start, knowing what you know now, what piece of advice would you give to yourself?
I would make connections sooner. I would make connections with my classmates a lot sooner and put myself out there, because everybody is new, everybody's a bit unsure, and I think just making those connections and being able to speak with another student and yeah, just overcoming those barriers a lot sooner. That's what I would do differently.
Well, yes, and I think that's really sage advice. And from my course, it took me to module 5 or 6 before I was in a WhatsApp group, and I just thought, oh gosh, I wish I was in this before. And
Absolutely.
That's great advice. Take the leap. No one's going to do it for you necessarily. It's not a structured thing. In order for these groups to survive, they have to be built by the users. Otherwise, they don't get the buy-in from the class.
And I would also say, just to add another point, the synchronous sessions. If you you can make the synchronous sessions, they are invaluable, honestly, invaluable.
Invaluable sessions as well. So thank you very much for that, and thank you all to our audience members today. There is a survey, I believe, and there is also a handout. So if you'd like to make sure you take that handout, make sure you fill out that survey, because if you don't fill out the survey, we don't know how to improve the experience for the next group of students coming into the program. So let's go around the room. Thank you very much, Demetrius, for your help today and for your advice from an instructor perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I wish a great start to all of you.
Yes, and hopefully some of our educational students will see you in the classroom tomorrow. Thank you very much, Anu. Where will you be if students need you?
Well, at my desk, so here to call you. Hopefully, like Joe said, you don't need good luck. I'm going to say all the best.
All the best indeed, and thank you very much, Stephanie, our student guest for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. It's been a University of Roehampton London online webinar. Now let's get cracking and start handing in those assignments. Thank you very much. Good evening.